As they told you before, my name is Elsie. I am 17 years old. I was born on March 9th, and I'm also class of 2022. I started school this week, so if you're also a senior this year, please let me know in the chat. I'd love to meet some fellow seniors. So I'm from Rwanda, and for those who don't know where Rwanda is located in East Africa. If you look on the picture on the right, it's in the heart of Africa, some of us refer to it. And I'm located in Kigali, which is the capital city of the country. As you can see here on the picture on the left, it is starred. So a little bit about what Youth Rwanda is. Youth Rwanda is a nonprofit organization based upon, you can take a picture of this. This is a summary of what I'm going to say. But Youth Rwanda is a nonprofit organization based upon encouraging the youth of Rwanda to work together to address issues facing the youth. As you can see here, it's empowering the voice of the youth and uplifting the voice of the youth, as well as issues facing the country, our country of Rwanda, and of course the world at large. Now, we also aim to address issues facing our community, and we've done that in several ways. And I'll be showing you a few things we've done so far as I continue my presentation. Give a second. Yes, but another thing that we do is we also provide a platform for the youth to be able to express themselves. And also we try to create a community where the youth of Rwanda can have a safe space and an environment to interact and be able to make change together. So we started on December 3rd, 2020, which means we're not yet 1 year old. We haven't had a 1 year anniversary. And we did start this organization. I did start this organization in the midst of the pandemic that we all know. And I'll be talking about more about how this affected us later on in the presentation. But one thing that we did do was we were able to use social media, which is obviously a platform that we use a lot as teenagers and as the youth. And we're able to create this community through the internet and be able to interconnect and become a youth Rwanda through social media. Now, let's talk about how we have worked to align our goals with SDGs. So as an organization, obviously, we're not limited to one thing. So we're not just primarily focusing on the environment or focusing on low-income families. We're focusing on every issue at large. As long as we see an issue, we're going to work towards addressing that issue. Therefore, our goal long-term is to address and make sure that our goals align with SDGs at least once in any project that we do. And I'll show you how some of our projects have aligned with some SDGs as I proceed. So currently one thing that we've been strongly working towards is equity. And whenever I'm talking to the members of the organization or I'm giving a speech or anything, I always first, I want to realize the need for equity. There is a need for equity. And for example, for some of us who go to international schools or have more opportunities or in some sense are privileged, we don't often realize this because we're focused more on our lives and our world. But once you open your eyes and see that there is a need for equity, then you can see that we have to take action. And so after we realize this, I encourage people to now answer the question, what are you going to do about the need for equity? And so as Youth Rwanda, we provide a platform to address this need of equity and be able to give those who don't have the same opportunities as ourselves a platform and a place to be able to get the same level of opportunities. And so one thing that I always encourage our members to do is if you like ordering food, you can raise your hand. If you order food on Uber Eats or you deliver food, etc. If you can skip one meal a week, or maybe you order food 2 times a week, if you skip those 2 times a week, that money can be used to do so much more for other people than you think of. For example, for me, I like ordering Indian food every week. Okay, not every week, but most of the time. But I stopped ordering food for about a year, and I use that money, and that money can go into paying healthcare for a family, can go into paying school fees, and can go into paying many more things than we actually think of when we order food. But I'm not saying you should stop ordering food. I'm just saying you can cut off ordering food so often and use the money for other things. So now our projects are put into forms called initiatives. So we've had 2 main projects, and I'll explain to you the first one. The first project was aimed to further SDG 3, which is good health and well-being. And obviously this was in the midst of a pandemic, as this project started on 3rd December 2020. And the goal for this project was to be able to provide face masks for low-income schools and low-income communities. And this is the official poster. I wanted to show you the poster that was put everywhere in the schools that we went to. And so the target audience was international students. So this is actually my school. It's an international American school. And I wanted not only to encourage people to donate, but also to learn how to give to other people, to learn how to give to people our age and our age mates, because learning how to give is a lifelong lesson that you can integrate into your future as an adult and keep it as some sort of habit that you continue when you're older. So with this, we were able to raise over 500 face masks. Now, this is significant for us because we did this project in the midst of a lockdown, and we had several national lockdowns in our country. We actually had, from December to now, we've had 3 to 4 lockdowns. So it was hard for us. We were able to use social media and other platforms to help us get these donations to buy 5,000 face masks for schools and low-income communities. We were able to donate to a school called Nyamata Catholic School, which is in one of the low-income areas of the country. And here are some pictures. We also have a YouTube video for this event specifically. You can check that out. I think they'll provide you a link in the chats. But secondly, our second project, which is very interesting because we started this project this summer, and this project is aimed to further SDG 4, which is quality education, specifically for low-income students. Now, the aim here was to raise money to be able to sponsor 20 students in the upcoming school year of 2021 to 2022. So our sponsorship included obviously school fees, school uniform, school supplies, and school lunch. So altogether, this was our sponsorship, and we had all the information on our website and Instagram. You can find that, I think, in the chat, I believe. But we also were lucky enough to get recognized. I had several interviews with one of the 2 biggest news articles in the country who were interested in this project. And this was able to help us gain a larger audience that was able to help us donate, and were able to raise the money early on. So we integrated a platform called Save Plus, which is like a GoFundMe page, but for Rwandan initiatives. And so all the details are on our Save Plus link. It's in our Instagram bio if you could check that out. As you can see, we got a lot more money than we expected, which was really a blessing for us. And also one thing, we started this project in July, and we're supposed to end it in August, but we ended it actually 3 weeks later, which was very, very, we were very blessed to have this happen for us, especially because this happened all during national lockdown in Rwanda. So all this happened over social media. One thing you can do is you can learn how to integrate social media in a project. Now, this platform, we're able to use donations from mobile money, which is an online money transferring system in Rwanda, and also people could use credit cards or debit cards. So with this, because we finished 1 month early, we were able to get more money than expected, and we're still getting more money than expected, meaning we're not only going to sponsor 20 students, but we're also going to sponsor 30 students in total. We also have more annual events like donating drives, where we encourage people to come and donate their clothes, their old clothes, shoes, toys, etc. And we actually have had over this summer. It started this summer. And it's also aimed to encourage people to have a spirit of donating often. And if you have extra clothes, you can come and donate them and impact someone else's life instead of throwing them away or keeping them in your closet. So these are the posters that we have around our annual clothing drives and the locations, etc. And so as you can see, most of our projects are also aligned to SDG 1, which is no poverty. We're aiming to, as you saw, the first project was aiming to provide face masks for low-income families. The second one was for providing school fees, and also our annual clothing drive is also to provide clothes, all together to help low-income families gain access to some of these things, especially because they have lost a lot of their jobs because of the pandemic. So now I will talk to you about how you can start your own NGO, which is an NGO is independent from the government. And since we're also a nonprofit, meaning we do not seek to gain any financial benefits to benefit ourselves personally. All the funding we get goes directly into our projects and our initiatives. So I will tell you a few steps how you can start your own NGO. However, keep in mind that you can definitely be creative with this process and you can align it to how your interests go. But I will tell you, as someone who started an NGO as a teenager, I started mine when I was 16, and also how you can start it in the midst of a global pandemic using social media. So the first step is, number one, the most important step is to find your passion. What are you interested in? Because when you know what you're interested in, it will drive you to pursuing it and be able to have perseverance in order to achieve every single goal you want to. So for me, some of my passions are, I love serving leadership. I want to be a leader that serves the people and not having the people serving me and for my own interest, but to help the people and empower my team and my delegates. Also, I believe in the power of the youth. Like Emoji Impact says, unifying the youth can really impact global change. And I think in our country, if we unify the youth of Rwanda, we can create a community that can grow into adults who are leaders that are unified, and we can address so many issues facing our country together as the new generation of our country. I was also impacted by Gandhi's quote, which is, be the change you want to see in the world, especially because sometimes you're always like, I want this to happen. I can't wait until they fix this, they fix this. But the thing you have to realize is you can be that change that you've been always asking for. If you want something to happen, you can be the one that starts that change. You can be the one that implements this change, and you can be the one that inspires others to do the same thing. The second thing that we have to do is to build a solid foundation. Now, this can be by starting off from planning a name. For me, the name process was very, it was very weird because I had a few weird names because I thought they were so cool. But then in the end, I settled with Youth Rwanda because it is self-explanatory. It has the name and it does define exactly what we stand for and what we're aiming for as an organization. So you can take time to think of a name, you can get people to approve it and peer review a name. Secondly, clearly identify the problem and the need. For example, we saw a need that there were a lot of low-income families that were drastically affected by COVID-19. Therefore, I was like, we need to take action and help these families. And that's when you also have to start thinking of possible solutions. So once you identify the problem, then what are you going to do and what steps you're going to take to achieve these solutions? Next, establish your target audience. As you can see, for us, our target audience is the youth of Rwanda. You can also have, you can establish it based on race or gender. You can have, basically, audience can be any type of group that you want to impact. For us, as I said, it is the youth of Rwanda. So next, you also have to determine your vision and value. What are your values? What are the things you want to implement and make your organization embody? And then determine them. And then you can also peer review them with your team and everyone else around you. Here's a few examples. So one of the things our motto is be a part of the change, become the change, and then inspire the change. So being a part of the change for us is being a part of our organization or being a part of a community that donates and helps other communities. Becoming the change is embodying what we represent as Youth Rwanda, and then inspiring the change is you inspire younger people, your friend group, your family to also integrate this lifestyle into their life and also be a part of this change. So third, we find the right people. So one thing I really want to tell you guys is to put yourself out there. If you want to start something like this, you really have to learn some of the lessons. For example, the biggest thing that I learned was the importance of networking. You have to send those emails. You have to go to those meetings. I understand that we're teenagers. And for example, for me, when I went to some of my meetings, people would be looking behind me. They'd be like, where is the adult who's coming with you? But I was just like, no, it's just me. So you have to send those emails. You have to put yourself out there and you have to stand for what you believe in. You have to take leadership and you have to know this is your organization. You have to be the one that drives it to make it successful. No one else is going to do this for you. You have to be the one that does this. something else that you have to do, something that came out of this for me was we were able to gain a partnership with Made in Rwanda, which is the biggest company in the country that makes Rwandan products. And they were the ones that made our face masks that we were able to donate. I wanted to have face masks that were safe and also the best quality for the families we're going to donate to. So I wanted to strive for the best. So I went and had meetings with the CEO of Made in Rwanda, and I was blessed enough to be able to gain a partnership with Made in Rwanda. Something else that I was able to do is, so for our project that we're doing right now, I was able to gain a partnership with the district leaders throughout the Kigali city. So there's different district leaders and mayors that are in charge of their districts and their section, and they're the ones who are able to tell me, this is the community that needs help, these are the people that need your support, and then we are able to review them and then be able to support them. So we also got the 20 students that we're going to donate, sponsor school fees from these communities, from these leaders, and that has been really beneficial for us. And I also went there a few days ago because we had our donating drive, and I was able to meet all the low-income families, and we were able to donate clothes to them, and we're able to see them and meet also the 20 students that we will be sponsoring this school year. So the fourth thing is to clarify your vision and your goals. So how are you going to make this a long-term thing? Is this going to end? When is your NGO going to progress? Do you want this to last forever, for 5 years, for 10 years? What exactly do you want this to be? And for me, one thing that I created was I wanted to have a passing on the torch system where our delegates, our older delegates or members are able to pass on their torch to younger delegates to take over their position when they graduate or go to university or graduate university or go to their jobs, so that we can have a system where we always have members. So this organization can continue until we are adults and until we are the next leaders of the country. Something else that you need to consider is you have to create a team and plan, budget, fundraise, etc. So I'm going to show you a few posters that we put up when it comes to signing up for the organization. People can sign up here, as you see, on Instagram or an email. I created a position for the permanent members, which are the leadership team, also including our, the head, which is like ministers in the cabinet. That's what I would consider PMs, so like the ministers. We have our treasurer, secretary, and each of these people have their own branch in our team. They have their treasury team led by the treasurer, the secretary team led by the secretary. And then obviously we have our delegates. And then I also wanted to create another section for signing up, which is our talent members. So this section is for talents like dancers, singers, rappers, everyone, because as youth, we have to always integrate our talent. Okay, we don't have to, but we have to. Youth have some, but as the youth, one thing that we pursue a lot is our talents. And I wanted to showcase this and let people be able to showcase their talents for a good cause and be able to use what they're best at to help other people in the community. So our dancers are able to perform, and in those events we're able to get money to help other communities. And it's also really fun having dancers and singers because we have dance parties and dance events where we can also have many schools come together and also low-income families and low-income schools, and we're able to meet other people through these events. Lastly, you can also have t-shirts. So we were able to make t-shirts for our organization. This is the back. We also have the front. So this also comes with you being able to network and finding the best people. You have to put yourself out there. You have to sign the papers, have the meetings. So I went out and I found a company that was able to make the t-shirts for us, and they're not partnered with us as well. They also help in making our face masks and other resources like our badges and our cards, etc. So for something else you need to know is I started this by myself on December 3rd. And you will start by yourself, which that is okay. And then in the end, you're gonna have so many more people. For example, I started by myself and now we are over 200 members in this organization. So do not be discouraged by starting alone or starting with only 2 people. You're gonna have many more people who are interested in helping you if you just look broader and make sure you widen your audience and be able to network and speak up for yourself and your passions. So Step 6 is register your NGO. So now a lot of the evidence I've been using is according to Global Development Research Center, the Human Rights Career Center, and also NGOs.org. So to register your center, one thing I would tell you about registering, you are actually allowed to have it, to have an NGO. I don't think anyone will stop you from doing a charitable event. So you, in principle, you can have an NGO without having to register it to perform charitable acts. But ideally, due to obligations required for registration, the registration process itself can lead to the development of statistic, thinking, and function of an NGO. So registering means you're going to be legally recognized by the government. So again, one thing I can tell you is you have to check with the government, because what the running government says about registration can be different from where you're from. So checking with the government is very, very important. Registration requirements can be different. You might have to register before you start, or you might have to register in the middle or in the end. So you really have to check with the government. For us, we can function without registering, but it does limit us to some things that we can do. But one thing I want to say is do not rush this process. You should register when you're ready. When you know that you're ready for, when your organization is ready is when you should register. The registration process can really be complex and it can take a lot of things to be able to register your organization. Registering also means that you will be able to report to your government yearly. So for us, in the end of the year, we have to report what we did and some of the things that we have been implementing throughout the year. And so lastly, go ahead and start your project. I want to say that I am rooting for you. As long as you have step 1 covered, as long as you figure out your passion and what you're interested in, please go ahead and start your project. You have so much that you're going to learn on the way. And I think the best way you're going to learn is through the experience and through the journey and through following some of the steps. But go ahead and start. I'm rooting for you. If you need extra help, I'll be here. I'll be your number 1 supporter. So please go ahead and start. If you really know what you want to do, you can go ahead and start that. So I wanted to also give you guys a few pieces of advice before you can start your NGO. So one thing you need to know is there is a lot of challenges ahead, significant challenges ahead. I think there's more benefits than negative aspects, but the challenges are, especially if you're a teenager, some people will not take you seriously. For example, for me, I faced some times where adults or other older people do not undermine your authority or your success because you are a teenager, or they think that someone else who's older than you is controlling you and using you as a teen to get that clout or the platforms. So just realize that people will not take you seriously. Some people will not take you seriously, but some will do. But just be aware of this and just go into this with that mindset that some will not take you seriously, but some will. Something else you need to note is that especially if you're starting in a pandemic like myself, some challenges I did face was COVID-19 meant that we couldn't do some events because we had about 4 national lockdowns from when I started. We couldn't have any physical events or get any physical donations. Everything had to be online. However, if you integrate social media or other platforms and you really are passionate about something, you are going to be able to find more solutions to how you can get these donations and get your projects to be able to be implemented and get the audience to see exactly what you are doing. So another thing that I want you guys to be able to do that's very important is to find a balance. You have to create a weekly schedule yourself, because if you don't balance your life, it's going to be very, very overwhelming and it can lead you to being burnt out and you can eventually give up. If you create a balance in your life where you know today I'll work on this, tomorrow I'll work on this, especially if you have school like myself, I do go to school, but I also have times that I have work for you every day. So create a balance and have a weekly schedule for what you're going to do. Something else you need to note is that you have people who will be there for you and are going to be there to support you. So don't forget that you're not alone in this process. If you don't have one initially, I will be here in case you want to contact me. I will be the one who can support you, and you can find so many more people who have the same goals as you that are willing to be there and drive the whole journey with you. And lastly, it is all worth it in the end. Once you see how much your work is impacting other people's lives, and you see exactly how much you can do with, if you put your mind to something, it's going to be all worth it. You're going to see that that money, that time you spent and that money you donated has helped so many more people, and they're being able to go to school and have a better life because you decided to do this and you decided to take some time off and do this for others. Okay, so if you have some time, I wanted to do, if you could check if you have some time, sorry, check. Okay, if you have some time, I wanted to play a game. So it's an emoji game, and we're going to be using the SDGs. So if I were you, I would take pictures of all these SDGs. Give me a second. And basically this game, I will be showing you emojis, and then you can type in the chat what SDG you think the emoji represents. So for example, if I show a picture of, let's see, no, I actually have a picture. I'm not gonna spoil it, but let's just play the first round and see how things go. So using this emoji, can you guess what SDG this is? Please type it in the chat. Okay. Yeah, one person who got it. You can type in the chat what you think this SDG is, and I'll reveal the answer. Yes, okay. Good job, guys. That's really good. Yeah, that was SDG 4, quality education. Okay, now that we know how it is, I'm gonna speed up the process. We're gonna do a quick round. So once you see the emoji, type which SDG you think it is. You can write the numbers if it's easier. This one is a bit hard, but think of, look at the emoji below. What does that emoji represent? Yes, some of you are really good. I don't think you guys are gonna get this one. But yeah, the answer is SDG 2, zero hunger. Next one. This is a true or false. True or false, you can write T or F in the chat. So true or false, is it true or false that you need to be about 18 to start your own NGO? Yes, guys, the answer is false. I was 16 when I started it, so you don't have to be 18. You can even actually be, I think maybe 2, 3, 4. It really doesn't limit you. Your age does not limit what change you can make in this world. Okay, back to the emoji game. Which SDG do you think this one is? Think of the graph. What does the graph represent? Increase or? This is a hard one. Or you're having different answers. But yeah, the graph, what does it represent? Increase. Okay, yeah, everyone is getting it now. Yes, it is reduced inequality. Yes. Okay, this one is really easy, guys. Really easy one. Yes. Yeah, you guys are really good at this one. Yeah, this one was an easy one. I'm just gonna give you the answer. It was SDG 3, good health and well-being. Next. This is also an easy one. Like, I see a winner. Jenny is answering really well. Yes, it is gender inequality. I mean, gender equality, not bad. Okay, and then this one. This, think of this as a sign. What sign is this? What does this represent? Ooh. Yes, yes. Jenny is really good at this. Everyone else. Good job, guys. Yes, it is SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. Let's look at this one. Okay, this is, my emojis are really weird here, but what number has this shape? Okay, wow, you guys got it. I'm gonna explain what the emojis mean, but yes, it is SDG 1. Okay, those are the games for me. I will have more games next time. Yeah, thank you guys so much for playing the games. I'll check if you have a winner. If you have a winner, we can be friends. Or I can, if you guys like get like snacks, maybe I can send you money for snacks or something. But yeah, we can just get to the Q&A section and I'll check for the winner later on.
All right. Thank you, Elsie. A virtual round of applause for Elsie for that wonderful presentation. Thank you so much, Elsie. It was really inspiring to hear your story and the way you've actually progressed in establishing this NGO and doing the work you've been doing. So absolutely brilliant for all of us and an inspiration for all of us to do something in our own communities. And we certainly have a lot of takeaways to take from here. So without further ado, let's move into our Q&A segment. So while you've been talking, I've been collecting some questions from our participants. And what I'll be doing is that I'll be going over the questions and I'll be maybe calling out the names of those who had asked the questions so that they can ask the question themselves. That way there's much more interaction between the presenter and the participant. So if you are comfortable, please feel free to unmute and ask your question. If you'd want me to ask the question, just drop me a private chat. Okay, so let's start off with the very first question from our participants. Maybe let's have Angela come up and ask her question. So Angela, would you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Sure. I just wanted to know what your personal moment or your memory was while you established a whole NGO by yourself. Like, out of everything that you've done back to the community, what was something that really warmed your heart?
Yes, thank you for the question, Angela. It was a really good question. So far, I think everything has been my heart. But one thing that really, like, I got really emotional at this point is I went to see some of those children that we would be sponsoring this year for school fees. I actually went 2 days ago. I went on Wednesday, and I was able to meet them and their families. And some of these kids have been through things I can't imagine at their age. And they told me, Elsie, thank you for what you're doing for us. We really needed you. And I broke down. It was really heartwarming. It was really hard to hear. And it really made me, encourage me to continue doing what I do. Thank you.
All right, great. Let's have our next question come up from, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Is it Marian?
Yes, hello.
All right, Marian, yeah, please go ahead with the, I know you've asked a couple of questions, so would you like to maybe pick one and ask a question?
Okay, only this question. Have you ever considered becoming a politician? Because you have a really good leadership skills. So I was wondering.
Yes, thank you. That was a really good question. And yes, I have considered being a politician. I actually am in student government at my school, and I love politics and being a leader. So I also do want to major in political science in university. So it's a really good question. And I'm glad you're able to see that from me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marian, for the question. And I think one of our admins has just put the link for Youth's Instagram. So feel free to go and have a look at that. A couple of other articles as well. So you can have a look. I think they were referenced in Elsie's talk, but you can go and have a look at them in your free time. Let's have another question. There was a good question from Brittany, but I don't know if she's in the room anymore. Brittany, are you there? Okay, I think Brittany isn't in the room, but I'll go ahead and ask this question. So she had a few comments for you. She said, it's awesome how you're able to do what you're doing and make such a huge impact at a young age. Aside from volunteering, what do you wish to, sorry, my bad. She asks, my question is, are the future goals of Youth Rwanda most likely to extend to other parts of Africa?
That's a good question. For for now, we're trying to first make sure that where we are in the country is a good place. It's like before you can help others, you have to help yourself. So we want to first be able to get this community in Rwanda. And once we've established this environmental community, then we can obviously integrate this throughout the rest of the continent. So that's a really good question. Thank you.
Thank you. Brittany isn't here, but that was indeed an interesting question. I see there is still scope for more questions, although there are a few which I'll be taking up. So in the meantime, if any of the other participants have any questions, they can keep putting it on the chat. I'm still reading the chat. So if I see your question, I'll definitely post it. The next question, let's take it from Rita. Rita is a member of our secretariat, and she's asked a couple of questions. So Rita, do you have any specific question for Elsie?
I think I'm going to go with my first one. Hi, Elsie. So as a minor, putting together an NGO and like registering it and going through all the bureaucratic process, did you feel there were a lot of bureaucratic barriers to having, you know, people who are young and teenagers, you know, just registering and putting together an NGO? I'm curious about that part of the process because I feel like usually it takes you being an adult and everything.
Yes, there was some challenges in the registration process because the rules to register are aligned for mostly adult organizations. They don't consider, I don't think they expect us as young people to have an organization. However, I was able to work directly with people in the ministry for registering, and we were able to kind of shift a bit, and they were able to settle down with our kind of youth type of organization. But it was challenging because there were some requirements that, you know, we don't have, some of us don't have bank accounts, or we don't have some legal aspects that they were requiring. But being able to have someone within the government to talk to, and they could see that this is a youth organization, there's no adults like in our organization, so they were able to kind of align with that, and it worked out in the end for us. But yeah, good question.
Thank you, Rita. Now I have another question, which I don't know if it was answered in Elsie's talk, but I'll ask anyways. Yifan, you had a question for Elsie. Are you there?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
First of all, I thought that it's amazing, this presentation. And I would like to ask about, would you like to give us some advice if you're doing a donation project? Because we are doing a similar thing, but we don't have a similar result as you do. Would you like to give us some advice on how you do for social media, such a thing, you know?
Yes, so as I said before, you have to know your target audience. For us, it's teenagers. So what appeals to teenagers is different from what appeals to adults. That's why I integrated a membership system for talent members. So talent has really helped us to gain attention on social media. When we have dance battles or dance events, they bring attention to our causes. Then they come to see the dancing, and then we can also talk about, okay guys, now let's talk about this issue. And then people can be like, oh, okay, then they want to donate. But also social media, if people keep sharing it and keep posting it and keep reposting, if you have enough members to do that, that can really help you. But also encouraging your friends and your friend groups and your school can really help you as well. So for us, every member in my organization, I told them, if you can share this to at least 5 people, each of you, and we're 20 members, so 5 people, if each of us share to 5 people, we can really reach a lot more people. So make sure that every member is on board and is able to do the same amount of sharing as everyone else. But also learn how to appeal to your audience, especially if it's teenagers. Teenagers are interested in so many weird things compared to adults. So learning how to appeal to your audience definitely is the answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Yifan, for your question. I think something interesting we could do now, I should have done this earlier, was that if you guys are asking your questions, maybe also mention where you're from. That way there's going to be a lot of, we can see how demographically diverse this participant audience is. So let's now go into another question from one of our participants. So let's take Tarun's question. Tarun, please, if you'd like to unmute yourself, maybe mention where you're from, and go ahead with your question. Tarun, are you there? Okay, no worries. So I'll go ahead and ask the question on behalf of Tarun. So he asks, apart from financial challenges, did you come across any challenges emotionally? And if so, how did you overcome such challenges?
Yes, that's a really good question. And thank you for caring enough to ask me that. Because I have school work, senior year, I have other work that I do, it can definitely be draining if I get off of my schedule a little bit. So I had to also sacrifice some things. Like, for example, I couldn't watch that show at 2 in the morning. I couldn't do all these things. So when I got off my schedule and it really hurt me, or like sacrificing some things can really emotionally drain you, or just knowing all you have to do every day, there's so much responsibilities that you have, it can really be draining. But that's why I also encourage you guys to make sure you have a schedule and you create a balance in your life. But I was also able to have create a schedule where every day, every week, I have one day where I don't do any work. I just sleep, I watch my shows, and then I also sleep early, and then the next day I can work. But that's all came after I struggled with making a schedule and knowing that I'm sacrificing all these other things, like materialistic things, or going to see your friends and hanging out. But in the end, if you create that schedule, it's gonna help you emotionally and physically as well.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you, Elsie. I don't see any more questions on the chat, but we're still going to keep a few questions running. So if you have any questions, participants, please feel free to put them on the chat and then we can take it over. In the process of waiting, let me ask a question. So I'm curious to know, considering how Rwanda has seen, unfortunately, some disturbance in the past decade. I mean, 1994 was a civil war, and then you had very traumatizing times. It took a while for the country to kind of come back on its feet. Do you think working as an NGO, do you see those effects still downstream? The effects of people not being able to meet livelihoods and then that affecting your work? Or do you ever have this issue of having to convince adults or parents that education or initiatives like this are also important?
I haven't had the issue of having to convince my parents or like adults in Rwanda, I don't think they expected us to have something like this. When I encountered adults, they were really mostly happy or really encouraging for me. They were really supportive, because having a teenager have something like this in this country is rare. It's actually the first one we've ever had. So it's more of a positive response. But also regarding the genocide that we had in 1994 or other issues like that, having this organization has also helped me create a support system where we're able to talk about mental health issues or drug abuse or etc. Because we're able to create a community of youth in this country. We can also be able to discuss issues that are just facing us as youth. So it's really helpful that we have this platform to discuss some of the issues that are facing us that most adults don't talk to us about. Yeah.
Well, that's very nice to hear, because I know there are a couple of countries where parents are, not your parents, I mean, like if you're helping an impoverished family, their parents would be reluctant to let their children spend more time studying because they think that they should be working to earn money for the family. So in that sense, if you see that that's not an issue with the people you've been working with, that's something great to see. That means mindsets are changing. That's a great thing to see. So with that, I mean, if the participants have any more questions, feel free. We can take one more, I guess, before we'll end the room. Yes, is there a question?
Yes.
Okay, Tasmin, I think
Summit. First of all, thank you so much. Yes.
Tasmin, you're getting cut off, I think.
Can you hear? Is it okay now?
Yes, please go ahead.
First of all, thank you so
Okay, got cut off again.
much for sharing your valuable advices. It's really very helpful for all of us. teenagers, then sometimes it gets a problem. Like starting an NGO, we have to face lots of problems. First of all, establishing it, and sometimes personally, I have started an organization, and it's hard to get people don't take it seriously sometimes when you are overcome it. Like they don't want to take it seriously. Even your organization or you.
I didn't quite catch the last part, but I think you're asking about how I address people who don't take it seriously, the organization. But so for me, when I first started, I had a lot of people that neglected. They would like say yes, and then they would just throw the paper away. They would ignore what I was saying. However, people like that, the best way to prove something to them is to show them. So I think eventually, because they all came back in the end, because they saw that what we're doing was actually significant, and we also did get recognized, as I told you, from like the media and other platforms of the country. And that's when they kind of see, okay, she was serious, she was actually doing this, and it wasn't actually a childish thing or because she's a kid. So I think don't aim to also please other people, but in the end, your actions will speak louder than your words. So just let your actions and what you're actually doing showcase your values and your goals, instead of just trying to prove yourself to other people. In the end, your actions will help you.
Great. Thank you, Elsie, for that answer. Thank you, Tasmin, for the question. And I think Tasmin has put in a lot of resources on the talk we've just seen, as well as on upcoming talks in the summit. So please feel free to go and have a look at those. And with that, since we have to open the next session, I'd like to thank Elsie for her time. It's been wonderful to have you talk to us. And thank you to all the participants who've been a part of the conversation with their questions and with the active involvement. It's great to see how actively involved our participants were in this session. So thank you everybody for joining in. Before we end, if you'd like to all add in where you're from, that would be great to see. I can see there are people from Iraq, India, Ghana, Ethiopia, Spain, Hong Kong. We also had a few participants. We've had someone from the Philippines as well. So a great diversity of participants. Portugal. Okay, wonderful guys, wonderful. Rita, if you're still there, are we going to take a picture? Or Arushi is here, yeah? Arushi, are we taking a picture?
I have a picture already, but we can take another one if needed.
Okay, we can take a group picture very quickly. We can take a group picture very quickly.
Let me turn on the camera.
I'll take a picture.
Yeah, so if people are willing to switch on their cameras for a group picture, no compulsions, but if you are willing, we'd love to have a group picture. Everyone, we can wait for a few seconds. Everyone can switch on their cameras if they are willing, and we can take a group picture. All right, are we ready? 1, 2, 3. Who's taking the picture?
I could take it, Jaideep, but I'm in my tablet and only 4 people show up at a time.
You're muted.
All right, okay.
Shall I
Can
take
you take it, Jaideep?
I'm sorry.
You could, Tasman.
Yeah, Tasman can do it. Yeah, okay.
Everyone ready?
Ready. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
No worries. Thank you everybody for joining in, and thank you Elsie for your time, and we will be seeing you around in the other sessions. You'll see me a lot as well, so I'll see you all around. Thank you, and I hope you all have a great summit. Now I need to close the room so that we start the new session. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for attending.